Hello and welcome to this quick demonstration of Lime's Airfare and Live Flight benchmarking modules. This is some work that we prepared in conjunction with the New Zealand Airports Association so that airports in New Zealand can see how they're tracking versus their peers. So currently for the airfare module, we're here looking at all the airports across New Zealand. This is just for domestic. You could choose to look at international or trans-Tasman. You also can filter by airline. You can look at it for what are Jetstar's top fares by airport. You can go into the menu system here and have, this is looking at benchmarking in particular, comparing routes, comparing historical airfares, future airfares. You can also go back in history and time. We've been collecting data since August last year. So this here is looking at Sydney, but if I change this to ZQN, being Queenstown, you can see this is for the travel up to the 9th of April, which is today's date. And you can see far out into travel, 90 days up to travel, how the airfares slowly but surely pick up. This is plotting every airfare for these key routes. And then you can see it plotted in a different way where clearly you can see Auckland, Queenstown, the most expensive fares, down to Wellington, Queenstown being the cheapest. And it also breaks this out by airline too, so you can see the splits and what are the average buckets by 1 day out from travel up to 90 days out from travel. There's a lot of filters on here. You could filter for airline, category, domestic, trans-Tasman, by cabin class, by dollar value. So this is just looking at back in history. You can also look at how things have been tracking over the months. So again, if we ZQN, looking at Queenstown, 7 days out to travel. So you can filter by all the different buckets, I guess, so you get a profile. Again, you can see what the average fares are doing on a seasonality perspective. So airfares is very comprehensive, looking at a number of travel behaviours, I guess, being able to predict, well, what's happening in the future? What is the future airfares looking like? And it also compares to capacity as well. So you'll be able to see, for example, if we take, let's look at Nelson. Looking out into the future, you have Air New Zealand and Sounds Air, and you can see the airfares actually coming down over that winter period. So for other airports, for example, let's look at another one. Let's look at Christchurch. And this is looking at domestic, looking at it by airline. You can kind of see that Jetstar has the lowest price on average. Again, it's plotting so that you can run your cursor over these and look at the specific outliers, but it gives you a flavour for, over Easter and then looking forward into the June-July period, how airfares are coming down. So it gives you some clues on forward bookings. So that's airfares, and you can see there's a range of different options here to be able to compare historical and future data. Live flight, this is now looking at capacity. So this enables us to look at what aircraft types are doing by city pair, what airlines are doing, how much capacity is in the market. If I change this to New Zealand, you can see this is the same period versus last year. At the moment, we've got all categories turned on. We might just want to look at trans-Tasman, for example, and we can see there's been some reductions on those routes. If we look at domestic, compared year on year, you can see Christchurch, Invercargill's got some increases in capacity, and that's just looking at it from an overall perspective. And then you can dive into more detail, looking at it specifically city pair analysis, a carrier analysis, aircraft over time. Very pertinent for New Zealand with the changes in aircraft types and movements. So you can see the 737s, A320s. If we want to look at it specifically for domestic, which is of interest to everybody, looking at how the aircraft types are being moved around. If I choose a particular airline, for example, we might just choose Air New Zealand for this one. And seeing that what type of aircraft we've got actually all flight categories turned on here because I've got both countries turned on. So if I turn off Australia, that will clear the data up. And now we have Auckland, Christchurch, with tops being the top city pair domestically in New Zealand. And what are the top aircraft types? So you can see the ATR, A320s, Dash 8s, and how the aircrafts have been changing over time and what the market share is. So all these